सबक वज़ीर ख़ारजा बिलावल भुट्टो वाशिंगटन में तकरीब से खिताब कर रहे हैं.
Ocean, leaving devastation in its wake. How does one overnight cater to the needs of 33 million people, greater than the population of Sri Lanka, New Zealand, Australia, 95% of Canada, more than the people in all of New York State? And this is a compounding tragedy. We're still in the rescue and relief phase, but we see how this is going to get a lot more difficult. Because not only do we have the immediate destruction of the floods, that as I mentioned, 33 million people, 16 million children, 600,000 pregnant women waiting to give birth. But now with this massive body of water that will take many months to either descend into the sea or evaporate, we're looking at, as the WHO has warned, a second catastrophe, a health catastrophe, with waterborne diseases spreading at epidemic rates and our supplies of basics like Panadol and anti-malaria medication not being able to keep up. And if the 33 million people have been affected, I mean, if you've seen the images, I'm sure there's been videos on social media, etc., of the masses of mosquitoes rising from these waters and forming large clouds above. It is truly an apocalyptic scene. Now, not only do we have the flood climate catastrophe, the health disaster, but at least 4 million plus acres of standing crop or cash crop was destroyed in these floods. The income of small farmers, this is largely agricultural areas where we have been affected. And one often looks at the images on TV, particularly from far away, and there's this impression that these are all incredibly, impoverished people, and absolutely Pakistan has a problem with poverty. But I must explain that amongst those 33 million people, the large majority of which were not impoverished before the floods. They were earning their way. They were taking care of their families, of the earnings of their lands. Now they are homeless and impoverished. And the devastation on the standing crops mean that now we're going to face food insecurity. We all know we were anyway threatened with that because of Ukraine and supply line issues. Now there's a serious threat. And anybody who's been following Pakistan particularly closely while all of this was happening, they'll know that we were in a very difficult, like everybody else is in a very difficult economic situation, but we were in a particularly perilous economic situation because of some decisions that had been taken in violation of IMF program that our finance minister was on record as saying Pakistan was in danger of default. And we had managed to pull us back from the brink and get our second tranche, agree to the new tranche and extension from the IMF. And that money literally came in the middle of August as the rains were descending. But all those estimates, all those figures might as well have been washed away with the floods as well. So we're staring at an incredibly difficult economic situation as well. Now, as the speaker before me mentioned, the people of Pakistan are incredibly resilient. We have time and time, in fact, they've been far more resilient than they need to be. But this is not a crisis of their making. We contribute, Pakistan, 0.8% of the global carbon footprint. And literally, the 33 million people of Pakistan are paying in the form of their lives, in the form of their livelihoods, for global warming that they didn't create. So as the UN Secretary General has stated, this is not about charity. This is about economic justice. And we've heard time and time again about how the country I'm standing in, Europe, all the great powers are combating climate change, are not only taking climate change so seriously themselves, but are championing the cause around the world. We hear about the Green Climate Fund and $100 billion annual commitment to fight climate change. Well, guess what? When your country is drowning in a 100-kilometer lake and a third of the landmass of your country is underwater, you find out there's no money. There's no international financial infrastructure to deal with the calamity of this scale.